Our second winner today is Claire Jenson, who is a senior at Oberlin College, and she studied abroad through the Center for University Programs Abroad in Paris. And she's being recognized today for her project, Robert of Hanget's Missal, Reconstructing a Medieval Illuminated Manuscript. I'd like to share a few words from Claire's recommender, Dr. Eric Inglis, who's an associate professor of medieval art at Oberlin. He wrote this about Claire's accomplishment. He said that Claire worked intensely with more scholars in a single year abroad than most students do in 4 years of college. This has two important benefits. First, it allowed her to discover the diversity of approaches within the field of medieval studies. This discovery is usually reserved for graduate students, since most undergraduates work with only one specialist in any particular field. Second, Claire not only met these scholars, she worked with them. She learned to engage new people quickly and to find help wherever it was available. The ability to work with lots of people is increasingly necessary for scholars in the ever more interdisciplinary humanities, but it is a skill that few develop, especially if they are as young as Claire. These benefits could only be won through study abroad. As a result of her study abroad, Dr. Inglis notes, "I believe that as she builds on her work in France, Claire will write the definitive study of a very important manuscript that is better known than understood." And so we are in for a real treat to learn a lot about medieval missal. Please join me in welcoming Claire.
At his death in 1356, the priest Robert of Hangest donated a 3-volume illuminated missal, a book used during the Christian liturgy of the Mass, to St. Peter's Cathedral at Beauvais, in order to establish a local celebration in his memory. In 1993, the Allen Memorial Art Museum at Oberlin College, where I am now finishing my undergraduate degree, purchased one of the pages from this manuscript, which had been broken up during the 1940s. This well-preserved vellum page was the start. When I undertook the project, many questions remained about the book's history and the state of its preservation. How many leaves are still preserved? What is known in archival sources about the history of the book? What can those leaves tell us about where and when it was created? During my time in Paris, with the wise guidance of the staff at Coupa, I took advantage of the wealth of Parisian resources, both in people and in libraries, to attempt to reassemble the history of this dismembered manuscript. I do hope that my project stands as an original contribution to manuscript research. It is certain that the experience was extremely formative for me personally, in giving me a glimpse of what independent research is like and in helping me prepare for graduate work. I arrived in Paris intent on my project, knowing that I had a lot of work to do on the manuscript in order to better understand its origins and history, and that I had to take advantage of what was sure to be a brief year in this mecca of manuscript research. Knowing that I needed to learn about liturgical manuscripts, and simply because it sounded really interesting, I enrolled in a class on medieval liturgy and ritual with Professor Pascal Colomb at the École de Hautes Études en Sciences Sociales. This course introduced me to medieval liturgical manuscripts in general, and missals in particular, and the generous guidance of Professor Colomb was invaluable at every stage of my research. Back to the story. After I showed Professor Colomb a reproduction of the Oberlin leaf, and we discussed this liturgical particularity, he suggested that I find out what other leaves existed from this manuscript. The only way to find out about the leaf, he said, is to put it in its manuscript context. To study the knowledge base that my study abroad provided has certainly proved useful since I've returned to the American classroom. Completing an original project additionally gave me a first glimpse of what research in the field is like and helped me to decide my future graduate plans. The research I completed while abroad helped me also to achieve those plans. I will start a PhD program in medieval art history at the University of Chicago in the fall. And it was my experience completing research in a foreign intellectual environment that prepared me for it. Thank you for giving me that and for this award. For
for Claire and for Richard. They thought that the prize was getting to come to Denver and present to you all, which it is. But beyond that, we also are very pleased to be able to present to both Claire and to Richard today a $500 travel award that is sponsored by Advantage Travel of New York and Syracuse University. The purpose of the award is to help them to return to their study abroad sites, to continue the connections, the projects, the work that they did there. And so with that, we're really pleased to be able to present these awards to Claire and Richard today.
Hi, I'm Claire Jenson. I'm one of the Undergraduate Research Award winners this year, and I just found out that I got in addition to having the kind of the prestige of coming and presenting my research, the opportunity to present my research. I was given a $500 travel voucher to return to Paris, where I did study abroad. I've been studying French for a long time, since I was very young, and I first went to France when I was 13, and I've been going back. And so when my academic interest in medieval art history started to emerge, I started to get into this kind of stuff. I was thinking about studying abroad, and I thought, well, my first instinct obviously was, let's go back to Paris. It's time, get me back there. And then as my research developed on this particular 13th century French manuscript, it made a lot of academic sense for me to go back to Paris and do research there. So I'm thrilled to be able to return and continue this project, which has a lot of open ends still. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to be figured out.